Is it recording?
I think so.
It should.
Yeah,
It's got the red dot over there.
So welcome back everybody for my another podcast episode. So today I invited our beloved Ajahn Bus. It's his nickname. So he usually teaches the production part in our university. So mostly about cameras and editing stuff. So Ajahn Bus, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, can you introduce yourself a little bit to the audience first?
Yeah, I'm currently full-time lecturer at the Stamford International University, and mainly teaching about video production, photography. Yeah, that's all about it. And I'm still doing some video outside. I'm doing some research, something.
Can you tell where did you graduated and what are you still pursuing?
I graduated from Thammasat University. That's my bachelor degree, and my master's in Siam University. I forgot the name. I just forgot the name. Okay. And also I'm still currently studying PhD. I mean, almost finished. Back in Thammasat University in the journalism and mass communication department. So previously, I have done lots of videos. I started off video production and photography since I was 14. It's something that I wasn't unexpected. It's just like someone walk up to me and like, "Bus, can you are you available? Can you shoot the video for me for this event?" During that time, I was just like, what you call, just like the bus boy who carrying stuff to the event. Yeah, and I was sitting there looking at them setting up lights, setting up a cameras, and he just turned to me like, are you available? Can you shoot video for me? This is the record button. That's all he showed me, and the zoom in, zoom out. It was like small camcorder. So I tried for 2 hours, and I shot for the whole 2 hours. The event is a high night event back in Boston. And after that, they hired me to do all kind of video stuff and photography stuff. That where I start to learn.
So that's where everything
Begins, yeah.
Damn, I love this. So mostly me and Ajahn talk literally everything about production, movie, films, and everything. But this morning we just came up with the topic, mainly focusing on the editing part. So the first thing is, how do you define the definition of the editing?
For the editing, here's the thing. I actually start off photography, right? And then, videography, that's where I start off. And there was one job that I tried to experiment with the camera, shooting for the concert. It was like moving, turning around the camera, moving a lot. So my boss, my brother, he's kind of like very close to me. I respect him as a brother. So he told me like, "Bus, you have too much fun shooting the video. Why don't you come to see me editing?" So I came to him and he taught me about editing, and he show me the footage that I shot, like the whole 2 hours. And he asked me like, "How do you feel, Bus?" And I said, "I got a headache. Look at my footage moving."
Was it the first time?
That was the first time I learned. I started to realize like, okay, to be a better videographer, you also need to understand how to edit the video. So that way, when you're shooting, you know where this piece of footage will go where, and how it can be applied into the final result of the video. Not just having fun, shaking around and dancing around with the camera. And from then I start to realize like, okay, let me do more on editing part. And yeah, and I have been editing videos since then. So you can say that I actually start off from editing, actually. Shooting, it just recording the video, some stuff. After that, I done a lot of post-production, no matter it's a work or as a school's work, or even after I graduate, I do most of the part as the editor. From my experience, 10 or 20 years ago, of editing, I think the editing actually, back to your question, from my definition, editing is a somehow is another storyteller, but it more of the last storyteller in the production process, and everything ends up with the editing, where you have to structure the story, you have to structure the concepts, you have to structure everything and make everything to make sense to everyone. There are so many storyteller in the process. Script writer also the one who start off the story, and there is the director who actually another storyteller that in the production part tell training, not training, but it's kind of like how would you act, how would you say things. Another storyteller is the cinematographer, where he actually tell the story through the lens, to the camera, how camera works, what kind of color you use, what kind of background you're using. But for editor, you have to kind of like combine, or let me put in this word, assemble. Okay, assemble everything that they have been shot during the production into a story that everyone will see in the theater, and other than that, they also have to correct something that is not right. That Fake and post. If you are the editor, you know how severe the editor is, because we are the last storyteller and we have to make it perfect. So for me, is for the editing is also another storytelling step. But the thing you have to do is not directing, is not script writing, is not controlling the pictures, but you have to structure the story so it makes sense in film language. And try to make them smoothly all together as one film.
It's like you have all pieces in front of you and you have to assemble into something, the final product.
Yeah. It's like everyone give you the jigsaw, somebody draw the concept for you, somebody actually, put the colors on, somebody cutting all the pieces and give you all the pieces to rearrange again. So you're the editor, you kind of like put all the jigsaws and how to make it differently, and try to see if new ways is actually make sense to other people, blah blah blah. So we are the one who actually pieces all together, all the jigsaws and puzzles.
It's like after like doing, for normal people like who is not interested in the production part, we always assume that if the movie or series is good, like, oh, the director is good, the scriptwriter, the cinematographer, but the editor is always underrated for his work. Nobody's like, oh.
Exactly. We are working underground. No one knows it. It's like we are working in the dark, and no matter if that series or that film or that documentary is good or bad, no one saw. It's like it seemed like 99% never notice or never talking about the editors at all. But somehow, if something mistake, if there is a little mistakes happen, oh, that's the editor fault. Sometimes, just sometimes, not most of the time. But most of the time, they actually blame or give the credit to the director, scriptwriter, and cinematographer. Oh, this shot is so
like invincible.
Nice. Right. We are invincible. We are
like mostly in the action movie. Like every time, including me, when I look back, I just like, oh, this shot is like so amazing. But nobody talk about how they pull this shot together and putting the sound effects to make it smooth. That's very underrated job.
And I think editing is also the job that have to make them kind of like what's called make them unnoticeable. Is the nature of the editing, that is the nature of the editor, where you have to make the film or the documentary very smooth throughout the whole piece, so the audience can only focus on the story. Because if you make one mistakes, or not mistakes, but if you doing something that kind of like stop the smoothness,
Like there's some flaws.
some
on the way.
flaws, then that's your mistakes.
Mhm.
Then you actually make yourself appear in the story or in the process. So that's also the objective of the editing. When you're editing the videos, you want people to not notice the flaws, to only focus on the story. And it might be the nature that's why a lot of people never pay attention to the editing, and that's why not a lot of people like take editing there as the important part of the process. But these days, people start to realize like,
Yeah.
oh, editing is very crucial, because these days when they have to do the kind of like content creating or something like that, and they have to
Edit
editing by themselves, and they're like,
Oh, I didn't think.
how they how do I do this, blah blah blah, it's too long, footage is a lot, it's a messy, how can I do it? Now they start to realize, oh shit, editing is actually something that you need to
to-
understand, that you need to know, and take very long time to
Study.
kind of like working on it,
Master this.
to master it.
Oh, another question is now you're on a PhD, right?
And the PhD, yes.
So you're taking major in that editing part. So like the one thing you mentioned about like people already done about the film analysis and stuff. So what make you choose film editing?
Well, the first reason that I focus on editing in my PhD because, as I told you, I study editing since I was like 15 to 16, since I was teenagers, and I started from editing. And when I have to propose my PhD topic, and I saw a lot of people doing the storytelling through script writing, through director, to cinematography, but not a lot of people mention about editing, like very little. When I do the literature reviews, it was like 10 in a million. You know what I mean? It is not a lot of the research on the editing. And the research on the editing, it was like technical stuff. But there were a little studied about how to tell the story, how signification works, how the symbolism work, blah, blah, blah. And for me, I'm interested in more of deeper theory. Yes, there are a lot of theories that talk about the editing, but I want to see how editing actually become a crucial role in terms of ideology or the deeper meaning that we actually see film through the surface. When normal people looking at the film, they would consume the story. They would consume how the characters or the actor or actress are acting, and how the ending is, blah blah blah, and how this film referred to. But if we are looking at the details, there are a lot of hidden message or the subtext inside the film that we called it, and a lot of people. Yes, a lot of people saying the subtexts were built or were created by scriptwriter, created by the director, or by the cinematographer. But editing, that's one thing. Editing doesn't create anything. The editing is just assemble things, assemble the story. But yes, we assemble. But there are many ways to assemble. But this film, during the editing, they choose this way of assemble. Why they choose this way? Why don't they choose another way? Is this because of this deliver some kind of message from the editing? Or if they do in another way, it would convey the different message for the story. I know it's quite confused. It's quite confused.
It's like how to say the plating part after everyone cook in the restaurant.
Right.
Like you can't just eat with the whole chicken. You just like assemble.
So
necessary
yeah, so it
part.
tastes different. It's like when you putting the lights. You very easy to understand why you put the orange light, why you put the blue light. You have the meaning with it. So the way you put the blue light, you mean something. The way you put the orange light, you mean something. The same thing as the editing. If you edit this way, it means some way. If you editing another way, it means some way. So it's like if if you look at it easily, if you're editing with the fast pace, or if you're editing with the very slow pace. So you conveying different emotion, and sometimes if that editing does that editing fit with the story, or does it not, or you want to make it look different from the story, is the editing job, is the editor job.
So the question is, okay, the scriptwriter seems the storyline like this, and in the director hand, he might craft in his way. So an editing part in his way. So who to decide in overall if there's like, okay, I edit this way because in the story it's supposed to be like this, but director is like, no, I want this, but in my way it's like this.
This is why I don't mention editor, but I'm mentioning editing, because they have different way, to working with different studio. Some studio, okay, you're editor doing your own things. You have the power to do it, to shape the story, do whatever you want. But some studio, the director sit with the editor, and they look through the story together, blah blah blah, and working on it together. That's why I say editing. Editing is a process, but the editor is a person who actually edit the film. So when I talk about editing, it's mean like it's a process. So when you talk about the process, it doesn't matter who the editor is. It's editor decision or is it director decision. But let's say this: everyone have every studio or every team have different approach to who actually decide what the story, how the story came out. Sometime the director has more authority. Sometimes the editor have more authority. But that's still the debate. However, it was still the debate. That's why I'm saying editing, to just stop the debate and like, okay, the editing is just the editing process. Here's the thing. Editing also is another stage of the production process where you have to decide. You still have room to make decision to how am I going to approach to this story? How am I going to make editing? So approach the story this way. You still have option to choose. It's the same as when you are shooting the film, so editing is also another way to reshape the story, and it doesn't matter who will be in the room, the director or just only the editor, or there might be the producer too, or might be the investors too, but in the editing room, it came down to the decision of the team, of that production.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another thing is the book that you mentioned earlier today, the Blink of an Eye.
Yeah, if you are talking about editing, there are two sides of the coin. If you are talking about editing theory, it's always come with the cinematography theory, like how the shooting and the editing come together, blah blah blah. But editing. One of the book that I like or actually captured my eyes was a book by Walter Murch. It's called The Blink of an Eye. I don't remember the exact name of the book, but it's kind of like The Blink of an Eye. And I was wondering why it is called The Blink of an Eye. So I actually read the book roughly and also listened to some podcasts, some YouTube. And it's so amazing that I never think about this. It's like when you edit the video, and this is what Walter Murch said, when you edit video, you have to make it natural. And what natural means? Natural to our eyes, to human eyes. So you have to make the cutting on the video that related to our perception, to the audience perception, and how we perceive, we blinking the eyes. So every edit, the best editing, or not best editing, but the editing that make it very pleasureful to the eyes perception is where you edit when the audience actually blinking their eyes. When I heard about that, I was like, geez, it's true. And when sometime, I don't know, you have this problem or not when you edit the video. When you have the long video.
So long.
Yeah, and you want to cut it out, but you don't know where.
Oh yeah, I've been through that.
You might want to count like, okay, 6 seconds, let's make it 6 seconds. But sometimes it was like, and you look at the shot before and shot after, you were like, it's not perfect, let's decrease it 2 more frames, 3 more frames. But if you take this book, it's so easy. You just stare at the shot and when you blink, that is when you cut. That's when you cut the shot. I'm like, holy crap, that's a great idea, and it seemed like, okay, that is how we naturally perceiving what we are looking at every day and blinking, and when you blink, you actually change the angle. It's same thing when you're cutting the video, you actually change the angle of the video, so it's actually makes sense to me, like, oh, that's the human behavior, and this is also how people perceive when they are looking at the videos. And with this concept, it's also, Walter Merck, he have been editing video for so long, and he actually studied about editing. He actually one of the well-known in the what is called not just editing industry, but it's also academically. So he actually wrote the books. He wrote about telling about the studies. So he studies when he edit too, and he came up with the. If you ever heard the rule of six?
Not really.
If you search, it's actually in my phone. I actually make a little research here. It's called Rule of Six. So Rule of Six consists of emotion, story, rhythm, eye trace, two-dimensional plane of screen, and three-dimensional space of action, which the last two are the continuity. So when you are editing, you actually pay attention to continuity. Each shot should be continued, but Watermark says no. When you edit, the best edit, you have to pay attention to emotional flow first. If the emotional is flow from shot to shot to shot to shot, that is the most important. You have to see if the shots are emotionally flow. You know what I mean? And the next thing is the story. The second importance is the story. That's support the story that you are telling. And the third one is the rhythm. How is your rhythm? Is it slow pacing or fast pacing, or just normalize the pacing? So that's another thing. The fourth one is the eye trace, and this is actually very crucial. If you're looking at here, you want to change the angle, you have to let the actor change the eyes angle first before you cut. So that way you know that, okay, when he changed the angle, the camera also needs to change the angle. And where he looked at, if you look at the right, you cut to where he looked at. If you cut to the left, you cut to where he looked at. Is a little more advanced for that one, but it's a fourth importance. Next one is two-dimensional plane, actually screen direction basically. If you run to one way of the screen, the next shot it should be go to another way of the screen. So it's showing that you run continually.
If left to the
left. But if you run left and come
Crossing.
and you go to another direction, it's mean like you just run back.
You're confusing the
audience. You came back. It depends on the story. And the last one is a three-dimensional space. Is kind of like the continuity of the shot of the scenes if it continue. But the most important is emotion.
Let me try.
Second one is the story.
Mostly what I do is I always focus on the continuity and the chronology, or if it's makes sense or not.
Right.
I didn't pay much, but like if I skip those parts, mostly look weird, but I don't know what's going on. And also mostly I think I choose the music first, so I think I'll just focus on the
beats and the rhythm
rhythm and the flow of the music rather than what's actually in the frame. But now I just realized music is just a catalyst for that clip, not the mainstream, not the bass one. So
that's why we call the film is another language. Because it has a form of how it's construct, for the film, which come first, which come after, and how it's actually form up into a story, or how it convey the emotion.
So gonna be not the last question, but do you have any personally the preference of the editor in the films, or
preference editor,
or any scenes that you like in the movie? I say that most of the time we just analyze about how the camera shot, how the director, how the storyline, but it's hard to analyze about the film editor. So
the thing is, in my opinion, I think editing or editor, we mostly don't have preferences. But we look through works. We look through works, and I think this is also the same as all the editors. Even though they are the well-known editors, they actually have they always have the new way to edit. That's something very amazing about editing, because you see them through their work. You never see them through their life. You know what I mean? Like, there is no single characteristics for the editor. Like, for example, when you look at some film, for example, Pulp Fiction,
Okay.
or some film like that, you know right away, oh, that's Quentin. Or if you look at some film and you know right away,
It's
oh,
their style.
yeah, it's their style. Oh, or you look at that some film, oh, that's have the reference from Kurosawa, for example. You know right away. But for editing, we never heard that though.
There's no personalized.
Right. It's like
that.
it is no personalized. So if we refer back, we might refer back to the beginning of the film, like Sergei Eisenstein is talking about montage, or Walter Murch was talking about the film that he edited about the Vietnam War. The famous one, I forgot the name. I just forgot the name. Sorry, I'm not good at recognize the name of the film. But yeah, we see through works, and all the editors, they have the way to develop themselves, the way they editing the film, you know. And also this might be it too, since the editing is a third person that tell the story, or the last person, let's say, last person to tell the story. The story already scoped from script writing, from cinematography, and they have to follow whatever came before them. So they have to actually support editing, the way they edit, make the edit, have to support the story that already there. You know, it has a room for creative, but not much room for creative as the script writer or the director do. You know what I mean? They have like a very limited creative room for them to make the editing, to make the story very creative. So for the one who actually get being recognized, they are actually very good. They see something different in the story and then make the story very, very well out of their editing. So yeah, I don't have any preference or editing preference, but I look through works. For example, I like Dunkirk.
I think it's a Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, but that's the director.
I heard that he worked with that female editor. I forgot the name. She edited the Oppenheimer and Tenet.
And I actually like the editing style, where they experiment with the switching the storyline, blah blah blah. I know Dunkirk, it was kind of like 5 or 6 years ago, but for me, it's still one of my latest great editing. For me, we should do some short film in school. Like very serious about some short film.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, we still have that thing. We can still submit on that July 31st.
Oh yeah.
We still have
The young artist, right?
A month left. Young artist, yeah.
Young
the
artist,
Thai,
something.
What story come up to your mind?
Huh?
What story come up to your mind?
Right now? Nothing yet. I'm still focusing on my PhD.
Now, like, I want to do short film, but I got traumatized.
Why?
About the place.
The location?
Yeah.
You mean?
So before that, I was like very, free about, where to shoot, what to do. I will always focus on the actor and actress and the storyline. I mostly forgot about the location. Because like in the past, I usually do in the room or in the private area, not in the public. And there was one night, there's Johnny and Jesus. We went to the trade market and we were like doing, because like everybody bring the camera and, do their vlog. So we never pay attention to that. But the security came up and like, oh, you need to ask the permission. We have to follow the office and blah, 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 blah. And turns out, you're not allowed to shoot, blah, blah. They just wanted money.
Yeah.
So I got traumatized.
I think, and here how they teach you in school. And they think people stick to that a lot of time, where you create the story first, to came up with the story that you want to tell, and then you start to finding the location, form of the team, and shooting, and then editing. But in the real world, it's not always start from the story. Sometimes if you're working with some studio, they would tell you, "Hey Brian, I have this actor and actress. Can you do the film for me?" So if you want to practice and you are so worried about the location, list out the location that you can shot first. List out like 4 or 5 locations that you can that you can that you think, oh, it's a good place, I want to shot here, and they have accessible to this place. List all those things and builds the story from the location. Or if you have the location and you have your friends who are actually comfortable to be in the film, now you have both location and actors, and build the story based on those things that you have access to. So that way you don't have the problem later
About the permission.
yeah, about the permission, because that is one thing, and people tend to, I mean, a lot of students and a lot of people stuck over there. They create a very epic film, I mean, epic story, but in the end of the day, they can't find a location that is good for their story. So
Location scouting.
yeah, just change a little bit, be flexible a little bit, list out the location that you can shot, like your apartment, you have the studio, you have university here, you have the bedroom in your friend's room, you have the dormitory, you have the shop that your friends own. Yeah, let's ask them if I can shot here for one day, blah blah blah. And now you got all the permission. It's just build the story based on those locations. Because sometimes, as you know, these days we talk about a lot of people, or even Thai government, they talk about the soft power. And when you talk about soft power, you have to kind of like promote something that government want to promote. For example, if they want to promote this kind of food, now you must have that food in the store, in your film, in your work. So you have to do story.
Face.
Yeah, make that as an inspiration for your story. So you write your story and including that too, blah blah blah. Or if you have this place, for example, if Thailand want to promote like Phuket, for example, now you have accessible to the Phuket. You can shot anywhere. Let's create the story that based in Phuket. So it might be easier, it might be harder, but it's something that you have to start with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do short film. Because I really want to work with a team that I can, for example, if I want to direct, then I want to only fully focus on directing part. For most of the work that I've done, I focus on telling the actor how to act, the cameramans myself. I also edit. I'm like all-in-one man. I don't say I'm tired because like I love doing this part, but it's still tiring, and I feel like I'm not putting my 100% work, 100% energy and focus on the main task. So it's kind of lacking. So for once, I want to work with a team who can take part on their job.
That is very hard things.
And I need to pay them if
Yeah, and the thing, if you need a team, you need to pay them, or you really need a teammate that really know you,
or really passionate about
know your style and have been working with you for some times. And for me, I think the only problem is during the shooting, where you need to form up the team, because editing you can edit by yourself, script writing you can do it by yourself, and you want to focus on directing during the time of the shooting. I think you need to start. Let's start and let's bring some people if they are available, and find someone that voluntary to do it with you.
We are at the age where everything's easy, not that like hard. Even to the past decade, everything's like so easy. The editing part, like at the software, the technological part, and the camera, like even the lowest budget camera have the high resolution already.
Right.
So yeah, the only thing we just need to execute it. So yeah, so the topic about the editing, that's all right. Do you have anything?
It has so many things in editing.
That will be like a long podcast.
It's a lot, but we don't. If we talk about it, we will talk it in weeks. It's so many theory, but today just samples. And how I think about the editing part.
Okay.
So I think what should I say? As a result, in the conclusion, I think editing is one of a crucial job, not just in terms of working on the equipment, but it's also the way they tell the story, the way they can change the story, the way they can scope, the way they can shape the emotions, the way they can assemble the story and make it work. I think is very crucial work, and it's kind of like the person who actually pieces all the puzzles together and just make it make sense.
A
So
lot of decision.
a lot of decision is making in the editing room, and you put a lot of brains, and you must and need a lot of people. I mean, it needs a lot of people that has a lot of experiences, or has a special way to tell the story to be able to work in the editing. And once when you comfortable with the editing, or you have been working with the editing, you can work in any job in the production line. You can be director, you can be scriptwriter, you can be cinematographer, because you know how the end result will be.
It's a very powerful part.
Yeah.
That can shift how the movie looks.
Yeah. If you want to learn about film production, learn about editing first.
That's a very underrated.
Yeah, I know. It's just my perception. It's not my be for everybody, but that's how it works for me.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn Boss, for taking your time and joining this podcast.
You're welcome.
And I'm looking forward to making another or upcoming contents, whatever, if we get the idea.
Sure.
I would like to invite you again. So
Sure.
thank you for
Yep.
today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank
See you
you
in the
guys.
next video. Episode.